Hello guys and girls, this is V and you're watching Movies Hunter. Subscribe. So today I'm gonna be talking about a 2007 crime drama thriller film released in 2007 called The Girl Next Door. In the opening scene, we see a man named David who is talking to someone on his phone. He then notices a homeless man passing by who unfortunately gets hit by a car. David quickly rushes to him and performs CPR right away, thus saving his life. Now, David says through a voiceover that everyone thinks they know about the pain, but in truth, they know nothing. Deep, he thinks that if he had been in the place of that homeless man earlier, it would have numbed his pain, at least for a while. And yeah, we will soon know enough what he is talking about. Later at home, he brings out a drawing that holds a special place in his heart. He recalls the incident of 1958 when he failed to save a life. In the flashback, we see a young David fishing near a local stream. That sounds nice. Fishing and a man named David sounds like a dream. Now, a 16-year-old girl named Meg then comes there and joins him. David notices a scar on her hand and asks her about it. He was like, "Hey, what's wrong with your hand?" And Meg says, "I got this scar in a car accident, and I also lost my parents." Now, although she survived with minor injuries, her sister Susan wasn't so fortunate and got crippled. Aww. She and Susan are now living with her Aunt Ruth and her 3 sons. So basically, it means that David and Meg are now neighbors. Ruth's place is like a big teenage hangout in a neighborhood, where all the kids from the neighborhood spend their time. Ruth is considered to be a cool parent as she allows the kids to drink beer, smoke cigarettes, and so on. But when it comes to Meg and Susan, Ruth is very harsh towards them. At night, the boys develop a sudden urge to watch a woman naked. Oh no, pervs, go away. Since there aren't many girls in the neighborhood, the boys, including her own cousins, plan to watch Meg naked. But David refuses to participate as he doesn't want to violate Meg's privacy. Yes to David, bitch. Yes to David. However, Meg turns off the light and the boys are unable to see anything. So one day, David goes to a shop to buy some food. Meg also goes there and asks David to buy her food, saying that she hasn't eaten in 2 days. When David asks why, Meg replies that, "My Aunt Ruth thinks I'm getting fat." So yeah, anyway, she further says that no matter how hard I try, nothing seems to please Ruth. So yeah, David comes up with an idea and tells Meg to draw a picture for Ruth. I don't know how that works, but okay. But Meg doesn't want to. She believes that Ruth will simply make fun of her for even trying. So David tells Meg to draw one for him instead. So the next day, Meg gives him the drawing she made. It's the same drawing that the adult David is contemplating at the beginning of the film. Now young David then takes the drawing to Ruth and tells her that Meg drew it for her. But Ruth sees through his lie and realizes that Meg drew it for David. So she humiliates Meg by saying inappropriate things to her and warns her not to get too close to David. Now at night, David peeks from his window and sees Ruth still yelling at Meg. Damn. David feels bad for her and goes to talk to her the next morning. When he enters the room, he finds the boys tickling and groping Meg. She eventually loses her temper and hits one of them hard. Later, Ruth comes there and asks Susan if she tried to stop Meg. Ruth blames Meg and Susan for the incident and decides to punish Susan instead as Meg is gone. But shortly afterwards, Meg comes there and tries to stop Ruth, but is basically stopped by the boys. Ruth then takes Meg's necklace, which was a gift from her mother, and David actually wants to help Meg and Susan, but is too scared of Ruth. She is ruthless. So one day, the boys see Meg reporting the incident to a police officer. But Ruth, let's call her Ruthless. But Ruthless convinces the officer that no such incident took place in her house. She then confronts Meg and tells her that she and Susan cannot leave the house unless she wants them to. Ew, that's scary. She then directs all the children to go to their rooms, as she wants to think of the most appropriate punishment for Meg. Later, David asks his parents if he can spend the night at Ruthless's house. So at night, when David enters Ruthless's house, he sees that the entire house is empty. So he goes down to the basement and finds everyone there. Meg has been tied from the rafters by her wrists and is blindfolded. She is barely standing on a pile of books. The boys then pull out a book one by one, as Meg refuses to confess to something Ruthless has accused her of. Once all the books are gone, Ruthless directs her eldest son Willie to use his knife to strip Meg naked. Ruthless then tells Meg to confess, but Meg replies that she hasn't done anything wrong. Ruthless' youngest son wants to touch Meg, but Ruthless stops him and warns all the boys that they should not touch Meg as she is not clean. She then decides to leave Meg hanging all night as she wants Meg to suffer. Before leaving, Ruthless coldly reminds Meg that if she keeps on resisting, then she will switch the girls' roles and hang Susan instead in place of Meg. At night, none of the boys can sleep as they are thinking of Meg. So despite fearing that Ruth might find out, the boys nonetheless go to the basement. Meg requests them to loosen the bindings as she is uncomfortable. The boys agree, but on one condition, which is she will let them touch her. Meg refuses as she would rather stand all night than let anyone touch her body. The next morning, Ruthless tries to feed dry toast to Meg, but she is so dehydrated that she is unable to even eat. Ruthless gets furious and strips Susan to spank her again, reminding Meg that if she continues to talk back to her, she will punish Susan instead. Seriously, she's a monster. Days pass by and David can't stop thinking about Meg. He wants to help Meg and set her free from her ruthless aunt, but he still fears her. So one day, David goes to meet Meg and is shocked to see her still being tied in the basement. Damn. Ruthless's children, along with several other teenagers, including girls, are bullying Meg. David is just fed up with this and wants to free Meg once and for all. So he tries telling his parents about what is happening, but he still doesn't have the courage to go against Ruthless. One day, the officer from earlier arrives at Ruthless's house as he wants to check up on the girls. He has received a complaint from a neighbor that some teenagers, including Ruthless's children, are beating Meg and using her as a punching bag. But Ruthless tells him that the girls are out shopping and that they are absolutely fine. She's a monster, man. Meanwhile, David goes to see Meg in the basement and tells her that he will help her escape later that night. He will even give her some money to run away far from Ruthless. That night, David quietly goes down to the basement and frees Meg from her bindings. He then tells her that he will leave the bolt open so that she can escape easily. So Meg gathers up all her remaining strength and attempts to leave. The next morning, David goes to Ruthless's house, hoping that Meg must have escaped. But to his horror, he finds Willie, the eldest son, forcing himself on Meg under Ruthless's command. The rest of the neighborhood teenagers are also there, watching the entire abuse without any remorse. Damn. The youngest son then tells Ruthless that they should cut Meg. Ruthless loves the idea and decides to use a sharpened hot bobby pin to carve a sexually explicit message into Meg's abdomen. They are evil. They are pure evil. And reading this makes me sick. Afterwards, she taunts Meg that no man will ever want her now. But Ruthless is apparently not yet done, as she believes that although no man will ever want her, Meg may still want a man. So Ruthless decides to circumcise her. David is horrified by this and tries to run away, but is soon caught by the boys. Seeing this, Ruthless figures out that David has been trying to help Meg escape all this time, so she ties him to the ground as well. She then proceeds to circumcise Meg using a blowtorch. Later, when David wakes up, he finds himself still tied in the basement, but he manages to free himself from his bindings and finds Susan taking care of an unconscious Meg. Susan reveals that last night, Meg could have easily escaped from the house had she not stopped to help Susan escape as well. Susan further reveals that Ruth used to touch her when she was alone. Ruthless, I mean. This is why Meg hesitated to escape alone, as she wanted to keep her little sister safe. David then comes up with a plan to escape. He fills a metal pot with rags and sets it on fire. Soon, the smoke rolls up on the stairs and escapes outside. Ruthless rushes to the basement, but gets knocked out by David, who eventually kills her. Willie also comes there and attempts to kill David using a knife, but the officers arrive there in time and stop him. The officer then takes Susan from the basement while Meg waits for the ambulance to come. David then takes Meg's necklace from Ruthless and returns it to Meg. He lies next to Meg and apologizes to her for not doing anything sooner. Meg uses the last of her strength to thank David for everything and tells him that she loves him. She asks David if he will take care of Meg and Susan now, to which David replies yes. Meg then takes her final breath and dies. Back in the present, the adult David is still haunted by the incident. He says that he will never forget that day. He returns to the local stream where he met Meg for the first time. In the reflection of the water, he sees Meg kneeling beside him. Although he never forgave himself for not acting sooner, he recalls that Meg taught him, "It's what you do last that counts." And so this was the story of The Girl Next Door. See you in the next hunt.